This is Arvin Vohra, founder of Vohra Method and author of The Equation for Excellence, How to Make Your Child Excel at Math. In this video, I'm going to introduce to you your Vohra Method report. At the end of every Vohra Method class, at the end of every Vohra Method session you come to, you're going to get a report. It's going to be sent to both the student and the parent. The student always has access to it, and the parents are going to be sent an email that contains this report. I'm going to describe the key points of this report to help you understand this report. I know it's a lot to look at, but no worry, it'll make sense, I hope, by the end of this video. The first column, worksheet name, that's just the name of the works that we worked on. Let's talk about categories. This is really, really important. Every worksheet that we do is going to fall into one or more of the following categories. Some worksheets, we call them X-ray worksheets. They're our diagnostic worksheets. Those worksheets are designed to find underlying gaps so that we can fix those underlying gaps. We have medicine worksheets. Those worksheets are designed to fix the underlying gaps. And then finally, we have weightlifting worksheets, which are worksheets that are there to build new advanced skills. So let me describe this with a real example. An X-ray math worksheet might start off with a very difficult math problem. Maybe it's a calculus problem. Suppose that while doing the calculus problem, we see that a student doesn't know how to add fractions. Well, obviously, if you can do calculus, you need to know how to add fractions. So we're going to stop the calculus problem entirely, get rid of it, forget about it. We'll come back to it later or never. And now we're going to work on building up your ability to add fractions. That's what we had the problem there for. We wanted to find the underlying gaps. We found the underlying gaps, and then we're going to fix them. And that's what the medicine worksheets do. They fix the underlying gaps. Now, something like combinatorics, it's usually either not covered at all in school or just not covered very well in school. So for that, we say that's a weightlifting worksheet. That means this is a new skill that we're just building. We're building a more advanced thing. We're not curing something. We're building something more advanced. The most recent date just tells you when we last worked on it. Number of completed attempts. This is pretty important. Generally speaking, as any teacher is going to tell you, sometimes teaching a student a topic once isn't going to be enough. You might have to teach the student the topic once or twice or even 3 times. Now, if the number of completed attempts is, say, like 2 or 3, I wouldn't be too terribly worried. If the number of completed attempts is like 15, I would be very worried. Obviously, we would contact you before that, but just in case the email goes into spam or something like that, make sure that if you see any number above 3 anywhere in here, come in for a free consultation with the student and the parent. They should both be there to discuss something like that. While it's common to need to repeat a worksheet once or twice or even 3 times, if you're repeating it 4, 5, 6 times, it really means that something's gone wrong. It could be something cognitive. It's more likely something behavioral. There's probably something distracting the student. And if a student's repeating a worksheet 5 or 6 times, it's probably something really severe distracting the student, making the program less effective, making the program take longer, and making the program cost a lot more. Let's take a look at this column. This is the reasonable max number of hours. So for Mathematical Paths Part 1, we think the reasonable maximum number of hours to spend is 10 hours. Now, that doesn't mean every student spends 10 hours. Some students spend 4 hours. Some spend 2 hours. If you're spending 9 hours, that's fine. If you're spending 10 hours, that's fine. If you're spending 11 hours, something has gone wrong, and that definitely requires a follow-up consultation. What could have gone wrong? Well, it could be one of 2 things. It could be something cognitive, as in there's an underlying, more severe math issue, probably something that we want to address in tutoring. That happens like 1% of the time. The other 99% of the time, that means that something is probably distracting the student. The most common distraction is music. Listen, in a program like Vohra Method, you cannot do this with background music. You're not washing the dishes here. You are pushing your mind well past its limits to become smarter, stronger, and more effective in every possible way. You're going to need 110% of your ability. If you have music using up some tiny 1% of your attention, 1% of your ability, this program might take 2 or 3 times as long. That means it's going to cost 2 or 3 times as much. It won't be as effective. The other thing is it's going to be less effective. It'll take longer, work less well, and cost more. Now, the second, I'm going to be a little bit delicate with this. Well, I'm not going to be that delicate. The second most common distraction is, unfortunately, it's parental distractions. So let me just kind of lay out the way to look at this. Vohra Method is more intense than the hardest physics class at MIT. If you had a child that was taking a physics class in MIT and was taking an exam, It would be bizarre for you to walk into the class and ask the student, ask your child what he wanted for dinner, or what he had for lunch, or how was school. Those aren't the type of questions you would ask during an MIT physics class. Those aren't the questions you should ask during a Vohra method class. Vohra method demands an intense, extreme level of concentration and focus. And any distraction can throw a student off, and it takes a while to get that focus back to the level that you need to be. Especially if it's a back and forth conversation, discussing, some events of the day or dinner or something like that. It can really throw a student off and make the program take a lot longer. Parents, if you're talking to your son or daughter during class, what's happening is you're going to make the program work less well, lowering the score. It's going to take much longer. I don't mean like an extra day or two. I mean, it might take several months. It might take a couple of years longer and cost thousands of dollars more. Unless something is such a life or death emergency that it cannot possibly wait to the end of class, and that almost never, ever, ever happens, there should not be a single word, a single text message, spoken word, written word, email, any communication between the parent and the student during Vohra method class. The only exception to that is if you get an alert from us that says like there's some kind of an issue. Yes, of course, in that situation, step in, maybe help fix the camera or help adjust the computer settings or something like that. But aside from an alert coming from us during class, you really shouldn't in any way communicate with the student. It's going to make this cost a lot more. Remember, this isn't like school where the school year is 9 months and it costs a certain amount. This is flexible. It can take 3 months, it can take 3 years, and it can cost a little or it can cost a whole lot. The key about this, the key thing to keep in mind in this report is it's going to be accurate, but it's not going to just tell you what you want to hear. So finally, let's look at this part over here. In school, generally, your teachers will teach you like a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need to know. And so if you do, say, like 80% of the work, you can get a 99%. That's not the case here. We're only going to work on the absolute essentials. And our program is very, very reliable, and our reports are very reliable, both in the positive direction and in the negative direction. If this number is at 100, if it says you are 100% ready for your first official attempt, there is a 95% chance or higher that you're going to get above a 1500 on your SAT. If this is at 99% instead of 100%, you're not ready. There is basically a 0% chance that you're going to get above 1500 then. Make sure that this is at 100% before you think that you're ready. If this is at 90%, you don't have a 90% chance of getting above 1500. You have a 0% chance of getting above 1500. This is a very reliable report. Let me explain that a little bit. In our math program, there's just not that many problems. So if you already knew all the stuff, if you actually knew how to do these things, this whole program is going to take you like 2 days. If it's taking you longer than 2 days, it means there are things you don't know how to do yet. This report is not just measuring completion of busy work. It's measuring your actual skill level. When your skill level is high enough, we'll tell you. It'll say on the report. If you ever have any questions and you think maybe there's an error in the report, just let me know and we can follow up on that. If you have any questions about our report or any questions about anything at all, please email me at learn@vohramethod.com.